2016. My name is Kijani. A little bit about myself, if you don't know me. I'm from the Seattle area. I've been fursuiting in public for about 8 years or so. I've done all sorts of events, from charity events to community events, parades, festivals. I've done a fair share of guerrilla fursuiting as well, so we can talk about that. I also run and organize one of the largest fursuit bowling meets in the world. It's called Win for a Ball Strike. Happens every 3 months up in the Seattle area, and I think we've averaged about 250 attendees for the last couple, so it's going real well. Also in 2013, August, I founded a nonprofit organization up in Seattle for basically it's character performance and entertainment, aka fursuiting, called Emerald City Critters, and we've been doing about 6 or 7 events a year up there, and that's also been going really well. So enough about me. Let's talk about Fursuiting Beyond the Con. I want to pose a question to all of you first. Well, actually, let me find out how many of you have actually fursuited beyond a convention environment before. Probably most of you. Okay, fair amount. Good. My question to you guys is, why do you guys do this? What is the appeal to fursuiting beyond the con out in public? Anybody? Yes?
More interesting reactions.
Absolutely, yes. We're going to talk about that in a second. Anybody else? What do you enjoy about it? Yes?
Well, I got asked to do this mascot. It was cool that it was just like, kind of like secretly, I was like, yes, even though it was like for an official thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you get to do something you enjoy, a hobby, and as he said, the reactions are very different. One of the main differences between fursuiting at a convention like this and out in public is that when you're fursuiting at like Anthrocon, most of the attendees will expect fursuits and they will more or less understand what it's like to be in a fursuit. So in a sense, you can say that all of the people at a convention are kind of your handlers. In public, that's definitely not the case. There's basically it's like an element of surprise, I guess, because when you're out in a public setting, a lot of those people will never have seen a fursuit before. Maybe not around Pittsburgh, because they're obviously with this convention, but in other areas, they're going to be really surprised and not know what it's like to perform in one. So you have to be ready for that. A convention is a much more controlled venue. It's enclosed. There's less outside influences that can occur. So in a sense, it's safer than performing in public. Anybody else? Any difference? What are some of the other main differences between performing in a convention versus public? Anybody else? Yeah.
Usually at a convention, people will encourage you to get water, or there'll be an area that you can take off your head or something like that. In public, it's not easy to find those areas.
That's correct. Yeah. At convention, things are much taken care of for you. There's headless loungers, etc. In public, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but you really have to plan well and make sure that you have all those things set up for you in advance. Okay, so let's talk about what is the #1 most important thing that you need to have or be, basically you need to have when you're fursuiting in public that you might not need at a convention.
Always have a handler.
That's correct, thank you. Handlers are very, very important. Handlers or spotters are basically your performer's eyes and ears. They're also, they have many, many functions we're going to go through, but they're also spokespeople for your group too. As most fursuit performers do not speak in costume, I'm sure some of you do, and that's fine, but a lot of us don't like to do that as it kind of breaks character. So it's basically the handler's job to field questions from the public when you're out performing, and believe me, you will get a lot of questions. The most common one I get is, why are you guys here? What's the purpose of you being here? And if you're just kind of out having fun, a great answer for that, I like to use the term freelance mascot. So everyone knows what a mascot is, right? So freelance meaning you're kind of not really working, but you're just out there having fun, making people smile. And
it's important to use very simple words that everyone outside the country.
Exactly, yeah. You use very simple words that people understand.
And positive words.
Positive words, yes. You're also going to get other much more simpler questions like, what's the character's name, what species are they, what kind of animal are they, and that's all stuff. Yeah, all stuff that handlers can have. It's very good to have one Toonie badge, maybe of your character that's made that can answer that question as well. Handlers also need to watch out for pitfalls, potential dangers, kind of act as a bodyguard for your fursuiter. Even something as simple as like an elevation change when you're walking down the street and there's a curb coming up, you know, fursuiters field of vision, they might not be able to see that, and if someone trips and falls, it could be a pretty nasty situation. So just simple stuff like that. When you're out in public, you might see like things like a group of maybe rowdy teenagers or something, and the handlers can kind of steer the group away from that because it could be a bad situation.
Yeah, I've got plenty of kids trying to pull on my tail.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, the tail pullers. Yeah, it's definitely the handler's job to take care of that. Keeping a large group together, if you go out in a large group, maybe 6 or 8 fursuiters or more, you have it happen a lot where like maybe the front 3 or 4 will get stopped for a photo and the rest will go on, and the group will get split up that way, so it's the handler's job to really keep everyone together and just have it more organized. Manage breaks as well, and attending to the performer's needs. It's really good to have a handler maybe carrying a backpack full of water, you know, for the costumers to have as they're going. Extra long drinking straws if you can't fit a bottle in your muzzle. Right, yeah, that's important. You don't want to, you definitely want, we'll talk about that a little later, but you don't want to talk, you don't want to dehead in public. For me, the ideal ratio of fursuiters to handlers is about, the ideal ratio is probably 2 to 1, 2 fursuiters to every 1 handler. I would never go out with less than a 3 to 1 ratio, especially in a crowded environment when there's a lot of people. It's harder to just have control over everything. It's a good idea also to use hand signals to communicate with your fursuiters. Like say, like a hand across the throat might mean I need a break or I need help, you know, something like that. I'm overheating, stuff like that.
Well, I use this one,
it doesn't really matter what you use as long as everyone's on the same page. Yeah, as everyone knows.
You agree on something.
Yeah. My last piece of advice is if you're looking to get more involved as a group, do this kind of officially. It's really good to have a handler that will take photos, at least photos and or video for you to kind of build a portfolio that you can show potential clients later, and we'll talk about that, of course. Right now, I want to do a fursuit demonstration because there's a lot of things that you're going to encounter when you're fursuiting in public that you will not likely encounter as much at a convention. So I think we have a couple of fursuiters here. We have Kitwana here, and I actually need one more. I need one person to play a kid, a small child, and we can have a fursuiter do it if you want, but I need a volunteer. Okay. We'll have you, and we'll have other fursuiters switch out too if you want to try. Okay. So one of the main things you're going to encounter when you're fursuiting in public is that you're going to be fursuiting around kids a lot. And so it's very important to know how to interact with a child. Okay, so Kitwana, you're going to be the fursuiter. You're going to be the child in this situation, okay? What's your name? Stryker. Okay, Stryker is going to be the small child. So Kitwana, stand up. Okay, so the first thing, pretend he's a small child and he wants to interact, maybe wants to interact with you. Go over there for a second. Just take a few steps back. What's the wrong way to approach a child? What should you not do? Yes, that's very good. Excellent. Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. The worst thing you can do is to be, obviously you're going to be really excited to interact with this child, but you don't want to run up with big open arms, because that's going to be very, very scary for them. So the key is to get down on their level. Yeah, lower yourself.
I usually do this, I open my arms.
Yeah.
And to me it's important that I do not force any interaction.
Yeah, that's very good.
I open my arms and see what the child is doing. If he's comfortable around me, approach me.
There you go. Oh, that was nice. Very good. As you can see, he did not force any interaction. That's a good point. Always let the child come to you. Eventually they will usually warm up to you. Now if say Stryker here, the child is really kind of scared and timid, and it's very difficult to get that interaction. A tip you can do is to act scared in return. Kind of like, if he's like maybe starting to cry or something, what would you do?
Well, if the child is scared, I act like I'm scared too.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. Perfect. Because in the child's mind, if this big cuddly animal is scared of it, why am I scared, right? Another good tip is to also interact with the parent. That's, I found that works a lot. Because if, say, the mom is back here, and if you start interacting with the mom and playing with them, the child's going, oh, if they're interacting with my mom, it should be okay, right? I've seen that work a lot. Okay, let's do another situation here. A lot of times the parent, say they're holding a very small child, like an infant or something, and they want you to hold the child for a photo. How would you say no to that? Okay, that's good,
I
yeah.
cross my arms, and so they are unable to solve the child into my arms.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A second trick that I do is, when I see something like this about to happen, I go down like this. And then I basically force the parents to put the child on the ground where it is safe.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot hold the child in my arms. I do not have, I don't feel it as well, and I cannot control it as well.
Right, yeah, okay, so that's very good advice. The second one especially.
Sitting like next to me where it is safe, but I never hold the child.
Okay, thank you, Kitwana. That was good. Okay, so the first one he said is kind of fold your arms. That will work. The parents might not get it though, so they might still try to force it. So something else I try to do is kind of non-verbally show them that my paws are very not dexterous, I guess, and I could drop the child. So maybe I would like spread my arms wide and pretend like the baby might drop, and then at that time they might get it. Another great way to do it, as he explained, is to just automatically lower yourself. So the child, they can't really hand off the child to you without it being on the ground. That's another safe way to do it. But never in any instance hold a baby or infant. There's just too much that can go wrong. And babies do not bounce very well.
It's just way too dangerous for something to happen.
Right. Okay, so one of the joys of fursuiting in public is you're going to be ready for lots of photos. That's especially in a crowded environment, you're going to get stopped all the time. So it's really good to have a set of poses that you kind of can go to, maybe 3 or 4, and change it up a little bit. What are some for photos? What are some of your guys' favorite poses? Okay. Yeah, that's good. Awesome, yeah. Yeah, something that fits your character. I see he's a lion here, so he might do this little prowling thing, or...
This is one of, actually learned it from you, this is one of my favorites.
There you go, okay, cool. Yeah, just also always remember for poses, big and broad, you're performing, so make everything as big as you can, and expressive as you can. Yeah, there you go, I like that one, exactly. Cool, all right. Awesome, okay, well that's pretty much all I had. Thank you guys, you can sit down now. A round of applause for our first demonstrators, that was awesome. Okay, cool. So something else you could do in public is have a prop that matches your character or the event. Like for example, I'm a lion, so I have a little, you might have seen it, a plush zebra leg with a squeaker in it. I carry that around sometimes. Also something to match the event, like for example, in the Seattle area, we do an event every year called Salmon Days. It kind of celebrates the start of the salmon spawn every October. And sometimes for that we have some large salmon plushes that our characters take around, and those are always a big hit. Props are great for people that maybe have a little bit of trouble improvising and performing in character, and the drawback is that you have to carry it around, so you kind of lose the ability to perform with one of your paws. But it can be really great. Okay, so another thing is knowing your limits too, especially during a longer session. If you know you're going to be out for a few hours, don't go all out for the first hour or so. If you know that you have to be out there for a long time, kind of try to conserve your energy a little bit for the latter stages of your performance. An advisable thing is to bring a second change of Under Armour. I will tell a story I usually tell at this panel. A lot of you guys probably haven't heard it. But about 8 years ago, we did an event, Halloween event at a local mall. And it was a very long session. We were there pretty much the whole time, the whole trick-or-treating time. So it was about probably 3 hour, maybe even more than 3 hour session. And towards the end, we were all getting pretty tired and getting ready to head back. And this this girl comes up and wants one more fursuit hug. So I did it and took a photo with them, and then after she hugs me, the girl goes, "Mommy, the lion's all wet." And obviously I was pretty embarrassed about that. And then the mom, the very next thing out of her mouth was, "Of course he is, honey, he's been swimming." So yeah, that works. Thanks, Mom, for saving me for that. But yeah, definitely know your limits, and if you feel yourself starting to get to at that point, definitely call it. Let's see. Let's talk about talking in suit. That's a pretty important thing to talk about. Now let's see. I've seen it work a lot. I think there's a couple things you can do. Let me put this back here. There's a couple things if you want to be a talking character that would really help the performance aspect of it. I believe if you are a talking character, you really need to change your voice pretty significantly. It's really good if you're into voice acting, that sort of thing, kind of create a character voice, not your own human voice coming out of the costume. It really helps also if you have a movable jaw that will articulate with your speaking. I've seen it actually really creep people out before if you have a perfectly static jaw and a human voice coming out. I've seen it really creep people out, so be wary of that. And there's also a kind of a fun trade-off between being a voice character and pantomime. It's really a fun challenge, to me at least, being a non-speaking character, to have to convey all of your emotions through hand movements and gestures and things like that. And it can be a lot more fun for the person you're interacting with, for example. A couple years ago, I was outside of Tonic, just having fun with the non-convention attendees there. And in about the period of maybe 3 minutes, I was able to get them to figure out that I was from Seattle. I enjoyed bowling and what I did for work, all without speaking one word, pretty much. So it's really a fun challenge to try to do that. Oh yeah, one more thing. Especially around kids, once you start speaking, the kids will really latch onto that, and the rest of your performance will kind of not be downgraded, but they won't focus on that as much. Like, for example, if you're around a group of kids and you say something, they're going to be like, "Oh, you spoke, talk more, I want to hear you speak," that sort of thing. I've seen that happen so much, so be very careful about speaking in front of kids.
I never speak around kids.
Yeah, because you don't want that to detract from the rest of your performance. Okay, the last thing real quick about fursuiting is a deheading in public versus a convention environment. Now, you'll see people going around Anthrocon with their heads off. Again, it's a convention, that's going to happen. I think for most traditional fursuiters, I consider myself one of those. I would never dehead even in a convention, because it really does ruin the magic. But it's to a different degree when you're in public, especially if you're around kids. That's a good way to traumatize them for a long time, is to be interacting with the character and then all of a sudden the head comes off. And just imagine like we're watching a cartoon and all of a sudden Bugs Bunny pops his head off. How would that look? It's pretty much the same thing. Okay, let's talk about choosing a venue here. So say you've never fursuited in public before, what's a good place to start? For me, something like a public park would be an excellent place to start, or even just a stroll downtown. Parks are great because they're obviously public spaces, and they're really good practice for interaction because there's going to be kids there, families there usually. It would be good to bring a prop like a frisbee, basketball. There's always jungle gyms at park that you can play around with. A few years ago we did a park beat, and we actually joined a pickup basketball game with a few 10-year-olds with some of our suitors, and they took great joy in beating the mascots. I think we got one basket to their like 10 or 12 or something, but yeah, there's a lot of potential for interaction at a park, so I recommend that. Public space versus private property, that's really important to talk about. A lot of fursuiters think they can just kind of walk into a Walmart or a Target or something and it would be totally okay. Well, that's not the case at all. Most stores like Walmart or any indoor mall, basically, or indoor or outdoor mall actually, have what's called a no mask policy. What that means is basically you cannot have your face covered for security purposes. If they do catch you with your face covered, you will very unceremoniously be asked to leave in almost all instances. Now you can get into a mall, but it requires very careful planning and communications with the security manager or whoever is in charge of that.
Actually, last year I did take part in a mall fursuiting event in Switzerland, and we contacted the security department before, and told them what we do. We are freelance mascots. We we do not sell anything, we do not give out anything, we just want to provide some magic to the shoppers and the kids.
That's right. That's a very good way to do it.
They were absolutely okay with us. They told us to, they got us a couple of conditions, like not to stay longer than 2 hours and not enter any restaurants, but they were fine with having us.
Right.
It was a big success.
You just have to really be, as he said, make sure they know what you're doing, and when you make that initial contact, make sure you're clear with the security manager. And most of the time, if you can explain it, and especially if it's part of another event, they will be happy to have you there. Just don't show up with unannounced to a mall or something like that. Even on Halloween, guys, because the malls around, at least where I live in Seattle, the masks are okay for kids on Halloween, but not for adults. So just don't assume that it's just because it's Halloween or something like that you're allowed to wear a mask. Okay, so something like another great thing to do in Suit is bowling or mini golf. Fursuit bowling is a lot of fun. Again, talk with the manager first and make sure you're very clear of what's going on. Tell them, you want to have a bowling party, and they're going to really want the business, obviously, because those make a lot of money for them. Just you have to explain that a lot of the attendees will have full mascot costumes on, and they would like to bowl in them. And I'll talk about my Rainfurrest strike, how I got that organized and how it made it a success a little bit later. But the most important thing is to be sure you're talking with whoever the manager on duty will be at the event. I've seen it happen so many times where you say come in on a Wednesday and try to organize something on Saturday, but the Wednesday manager might not be there on Saturday, and sometimes people are very bad about communicating even in between in-house. So what I would do is I would go there on a Saturday around the time that you would like to have the party or the event, and talk with whoever's going to be there during that time, so there's no surprises. For Rainfurrest strike, I was working at that bowling alley for many years before that, so I knew the manager really well. And I pretty much told him what I just told you guys, that I'm looking to have a party, and a bowling party, and a lot of us will have the mascot costumes. And for bowling especially, a lot of places will not allow you to have feet paws on the approach areas when you're bowling, and that's to be expected, because feet paws I've seen can really damage them. And we're very fortunate at my meet that they still allow that. But anyway, I talked with them about it, and they gave me the all clear, and the first one we had 40 people show up and about 8 or 10 fursuiters, and after that it just kept on growing and growing. We had more people come from across the state, Canada, Oregon, and all of a sudden there's 200 plus people coming, and it's really been amazing how the meet's been grown. So it starts with basically just, if you have an idea, get it going in your local community, and you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes you just take someone with an idea and some drive, and something really cool can happen. Organize events in your hometown. Nearly all cities or towns, especially around this time of year in the summer, have festivals. And it's really a great way to get involved. A lot of them are like street fair type of things, or a lot of them also have parades attached to them, and those are a lot of fun to do in Suit as well. Just be sure to register for the parade in advance, like on the website of the festival. Because you just don't want to just show up and assume you can get in. For something like a street fair, it's probably okay just to show up to that, unless, because from my experience, there was a street fair in the city where I lived, and for many years, actually all the years they had the street fair, we just actually showed up as a group, and they loved us, and we never had any issues. But whenever there's any doubt, always contact the organizers if you can, and make sure that they know you're coming. It's a good rule to follow. Charity events and fundraisers, they happen almost every weekend, especially if you live near a big city. The most appealing would be, and the ones that would make the most sense, would be charities that benefit kids or animals. Like for the Humane Society, for example, I'm sure they would love to have a big group of mascots come in and try to do like a pet adoption fair or something. If you want to do something like that, take time to do some research. Look up a fundraiser or event dates for an organization that you feel really strongly about personally. That'll help your cause as well. Say you have a family member that's suffering from cancer or whatever, something like that. Look up the American Cancer Society and tell them your story. Say, I'm struggling with this, and I would love to do a fundraiser to help your great charity, and that will help you get in. So now we're going to talk about contacting organizers. Once you have that event that you want to do, how do you go about contacting the people to get in? The best thing you can do, I think, is build kind of a portfolio of your group performing in public, preferably photos and video, but at least photos of the costumes, especially if you're a new group and you might not have those photos of yourself interacting with others. At least have some photos you can show them, like these are the characters that will be performing with us, so they can see.
Usually I show them one of my videos, even better to see what we're doing.
Yeah, if you have videos, definitely do that. But say you're in your group and do not, just at least show them the photos. When you're performing in public, it's best to actually separate your identity from the furry fandom, which is kind of unfortunate, but negative connotations about furry and fursuiters do still exist and are believed. But in my experience, I would say almost all the time they would never have heard of furry before, so I don't see any real point in bringing it up. If it is brought up, I would not deny it. Say they're asking you, are you guys furries? I would, instead of denying it or anything like that, I would describe your group by what you do. Always, as Rito said earlier, Kitwana said earlier, always use positive connotation, positive words. You like to entertain others and put smiles on people's faces, stuff like that. Don't focus on what you're not. Don't say like, oh no, we're not, those type of furries. Don't do anything like that.
Don't tell them what you are not.
Yeah. And also, I've also seen positive reactions happen as well. Like one time we did a parade in my hometown of Bothell, Washington, and it was probably our, I want to say, 3rd year there, and we're walking down the street, and all of a sudden we hear this, the furries are back, we love you guys! And we're like, whoa, that was really cool. So you will have some positive reactions too. I can imagine that would happen in this city as well.
Kijani?
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention too is many of the directors of these organizations that you'll interact with, they see you as an asset to their event. But sometimes they have to also work with a whole panel full of co-organizers, and so sometimes they need some tangible information about you that they can give to the rest of their team so that they all know what's going on. Because all you need is just one person outside of that organizer who's got some bad information about furries or fursuiters that can spoil the whole thing, because they get really, really worried about you being, this unknown that's going to be working with the children, and they pull up the big liability flag, and then suddenly you're out of the event. So what I have found is that what has really helped create a air of professionality about you and your team and your fursuiting is to have some kind of piece of paper or some kind of document that you can give to that manager about what you do. And then they can then turn around and they can give that to the rest of the people on the board to say, yes, okay, this is who they are, and it gives you a feeling of professionalism that stops a lot of that negative connotation.
Kind of touching on that, last year I got in touch with a local animal shelter and found out they were doing a charity pet walk, and I basically at about the same time got in touch with the organizers of one of the local conventions in New England outside of Boston, and I said, would you have any interest in joining that? And it turns out they also had ideas of doing events outside the convention, and on top of that, the charity for the convention had a booth at that particular pet walk. So I said that would be our reference. And we had it last year, we had it just last month. Shelter loves us, and by using charity as a reference, we have a good legitimacy, and we're saying we're from the New England convention, not the furries or these random people. And I've been told that the organizers next year, they say they want to have pictures of the fursuiters with the pets to be adopted as part of like a promotional thing. So like I said, I'm using, it's now basically in their hands, but it's basically using the convention as the conduit for us joining the event.
Yeah, that's a really good way to do it. If you can tie it in with something official like a convention, yeah, that'll really help. And I was actually going to talk about this a little bit later. Tycho did provide some of his brochures I know he was referring to earlier about talking about his character, and I'll leave these up here if you guys want to look. This is really great, and I agree that that's a wonderful way to to tell, especially initially, tell the organizers of the event that you want to get in about yourself. There's a number of ways to do it. This is one of them. We'll talk about some more in a little bit here. But anyway, when you first meet with the organizers, very clearly explain what you would like to do, again, using easy to understand terms like mascot character, life-size cartoon animals, anything with a positive connotation to it. State that you will be performing, and this is the very first contact with them when you try to get in. State that you will be performing for fun and do not seek compensation. A lot of times when you bring up that you're going to have characters there, they're going to assume that you want to get paid for it. And obviously that's not going to be the case at the beginning, especially. State, Tycho said this earlier, state how the festival will benefit from you being there. That's really, really important. Say it's some sort of charity event. You should also offer to help and assist with festival fundraising opportunities. Leave it open-ended. Let them decide what you do. Because the biggest thing is when you're volunteering for an organization, you are working for them. It's not the other way around. They may even request that you help out of suit. Say it's like a marathon or something like that for charity. They might request that you hand out water to people participating out of suit. And you have to agree to do something like that as well. Just the biggest thing is, state how they're going to benefit from being there. If there's going to be a lot of kids and families in attendance, explain that our characters will provide, the kids and families with a lot of warm memories from the event, and just, focus on what they can benefit from you guys, basically. Once you do get in, it would be good to see if there's a room that you can use for changing space, especially if you have a larger group. Because you're going to need some sort of location that's not a bathroom stall, that's not a parking lot, to have kind of as a break area, a safe zone that you can pop your heads off, take a break if needed. Because it's not going to work to change in the bathrooms pretty much. I'll give you a couple examples here. One of them was a street fair near my house, and unfortunately they didn't really have any dedicated building that we could use as a break area. So what we ended up doing in that situation, I actually live only about 5 minutes from where the festival was held. So what we did is we actually had everyone meet up at my place, and our handlers would drive us over to the festival grounds, and we would kind of just make a round there and then go back. There are a couple, if that's the case, it's really important to scout the venue in advance and kind of look for areas that you can possibly use as safe zones, like behind a building or something that's away from the public that you can take a break there and pop your heads off if needed, because it's very difficult to go a whole session without you needing to do that, even if you're an experienced performer. Another option is to rent out a room at a local facility, such as a library or office building. Libraries don't cost money, but office buildings would, so it can get a little bit expensive. Pop-up tents or canopies are great too if someone has one of those. You just need to kind of hang up curtains for privacy. We've done parades where we have used those little pop-up canopies and brought up some sort of generator or power source to run fans and stuff, and that's also worked great. The biggest thing is always act courteous and professional. You will get turned down. It's going to happen. When I first formed Emerald City Recruiters, I actually got turned down or ignored for various reasons. I think for the first 3 events I tried to get in. Don't get discouraged. Keep trying. Never give up. And you will get in. The first event we got in was a really big one. It was the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure locally in Seattle, and that was one of the. And it was a really good event. So that was. Kind of made all my hard work worth it. I also want to say that compensation can also come in other forms when you're performing for a group. A great example of that is a event we just did about a month ago for the American Cancer Society. They were really, really thrilled to have our group there, and they just went all out for us. They actually gave us, how that works is, if you've never been to a Relay for Life event, it's usually at a track at a high school or something, and people just kind of do laps. So they actually gave us one of the locker rooms right on the ground floor by the track, and they gave us sandwiches and water and fruit, and they gave us this huge room, and they had it all ready for us when we got there. It was so nice. So you might not get paid in money when you do that, but that sort of giving, that really shows that they want to have you guys there, they're happy to have you there, and that's their way of showing that. So your compensation will come in other forms. Okay, so once you know your venue, what should you do to get ready for the event? Boy Scout motto, be prepared as much as you can. I'm the type of person that I don't like to leave anything to chance, especially when I'm performing for a big event. So what I would do is, if I've never been there before, I would scout the venue in advance, go up there, do a dry run, know how long it takes to get there. You obviously don't want to be late. And kind of walk around a little bit, kind of scout the venue for pitfalls, break locations, things like that. Especially if there's no break area, it's really important to, know a place where you can pop that head off if you need to. Know your exits. If something happens, you can never predict it, but you always want to have a plan in place. If there's some sort of emergency, where can you go? What's the fastest route back to your safe area? If you're taking if you're going to like some sort of street fair or festival, I like to formulate some sort of a route that you guys take so you guys aren't just wandering around aimlessly. And if that's the case, you might also miss out on a part of the festival that you might want to interact with people there. So I kind of plan a route and follow it as closely as possible. I mean, it's nearly impossible to do that with a big group of fursuiters, but I try to follow it as close as I can. Make sure handlers know their roles too, what to do in the case of emergency. Communication is really key. For a large event, like I was explaining Issaquah Salmon Days, we have the absolute maximum amount of people we need to have for that. We have about 20 to 25 volunteers for that event for us when we do it, because we have to actually occupy 2 places within the festival at the same time. And so we have about 5 suitors for each group, and then handlers, and also 1 team that's on break. So it's really a lot of logistics that we have to deal with. So we have walkie-talkies or 2-way radios. Those really help. Just at least, if you don't have those, make sure at least all the handlers have each other's phone numbers so they can communicate through text or whatever. It's really important. Yeah. Yeah, if you have walkie-talkies or something like that, that would be the best way to go for sure. Yeah, that's excellent way to go. Yeah. Okay, so that's about it for that. Does anyone have any questions? We're going to do, by the way, we are going to do a Q&A at the end of this. There's nothing after this in the room, so if there's any questions you have, then we can answer. But yeah.
We have a cost at parent. We have what we need to studio. Every time we have a cost around one parent, more than one parent actually. What is this? Who should respond to that person? The character would be organized, or deferring it to an organizer, or how would something?
Are you talking about just like just a normal outing? Oh, like a meet? Oh, okay. Well, I usually leave that to the handlers or people that aren't in suit. At least when I'm doing an event, I always do like a little handlers meeting before we go out to make sure they know if anyone asks who we are or why we're there, that they have a kind of an answer planned out already. But if you're like at a fur meet or something and people ask who you are, just basically you can say that you're a group of. Do you have a name for your group? Like, yeah.
Rainfurrest has Fursuiting.
Okay.
We have fur balls. And however, I like your event where it's more, usually we share it with the general public.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's a lot of kids there.
Right.
Kids, for the most part, don't mind. There's parents that are concerned about it. As an example, I've been asked that a couple times, and I refer them to the organizer, because they have a organizer who better answer that question.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. If you're not sure what to say in that situation, always defer it to somebody that would know. If that was the situation, what I would do is I would just explain your group. That's happened to me before at my bowling event. I just say we're with a group called Fur Life. We're a bunch of anthropomorphic. Most people don't know what that word is. So I use like cartoon animal fans. A lot of us like to dress up as characters in costume and stuff like that. So that's how I would explain it. Yeah.
One important thing with the kids that I don't think was mentioned was keep both of your hands visible at all times because of liability.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, that's very important. When you're posing for photos with kids and stuff, and especially when you're interacting with kids, do make sure your paws are visible. Yeah, both of them, yeah.
I usually go like this when the child is next to me. I place one hand on its shoulder and the other one around like this. I never put my paw behind the child on its back. Always that both paws are visible.
Yeah, that's correct.
Like this, for example.
Yeah, there's a number of ways to do it. That's a good point, because all it takes is one photo with your paw in a location that it probably shouldn't be, and your group could be in a lot of trouble. So that's a great point. Thank you so much.
Also, what is important when you take your character frequently out to public outings, you gotta need to keep your social media accounts clean, because the people will remember your name, the name of the character, and if they look it up online, you don't want to encounter any adult stuff or anything problematic, especially if you are performing around kids frequently.
Yeah, that is a good point too. What he said is, if you do this a lot and you're trying to kind of make a name for yourself as your character, people will. There is a chance that people will look it up online. So that's a good point. You know.
You don't want them to find.
Yeah, you don't want them to find anything that would. Yeah, that would ruin your image or incriminate you in any way. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. Okay, so this last section here is called For the Ambitious. Now this is for basically if you really are into public fursuiting and you have a group together and you want to do this officially and get into events and stuff, how would you do that? The first thing you would do is create an official group name. That's really important. It helps create a sense of solidarity within your group, and it just makes you more reputable, and it's easier to introduce yourself. So say you wanted to get into some sort of charity event, and they ask you who you are, what's the name of your group. It doesn't really work to say, oh, we're just a bunch of freelance mascots. It's much easier and more professional to say, we are Emerald City Critters. We are Critters by the Bay. We are Helping Paws. We are High Four, whatever the one is around here. But just to have an official name for your group. If you're ambitious, you can trademark the name and register as a nonprofit organization in the state in which you live. In Washington State, where I live, it wasn't actually that expensive to register as a state-based, state-registered nonprofit. It was less than $100 for all the filing fees and stuff. Now, 501c3 is more expensive. It's actually a lot less expensive than it used to be. Back when I formed Emerald City Critters, it was like $850 or $800 to become a 501c3. But there was a rule in place lately that changed it. If you have less than $10,000 of gross annual income flowing through, the fee went down to $400, which is somewhat affordable, depending. You're probably not going to have much money flowing through your organization at the beginning. We still don't. We rely solely on, Emerald City Critters solely relies on donations through the people that we perform for, and not a lot of organizations actually donate, so it's been a little bit of a struggle in that way. But you're not going to have that $10,000, so it's going to be $400. Now, actually, this is really interesting. Starting yesterday, July 1st, they actually reduced it even further. It's only $250 now to file to be a 501c3 government-recognized tax-exempt organization. And because of that, we actually just did it. So we're going to be a 501c3 starting very soon, and I'm very excited about that, because it's really important to be able to tell people that when they make donations to your organization that they are tax deductible, and to be a 501c3 recognized really makes you about the most official you can be. So I would recommend that if you can afford the $250 fee. Also, because of that, background checks is kind of a controversial area. It really does make your organization feel safer. It makes organizations feel safer about having you guys there, especially if you're going to be working around children. Like say, if you wanted to go into a children's hospital, I guarantee you 100% they are going to do background checks on you. So if you have that taken care of already, and you can show proof of that, that would be the best way to go. Especially if you're going to be working around kids a lot. Most nonprofits do that already. Have fun and treat it like a business. And I'm going to show you some of the materials that I have for Emerald City Critters. So for when we perform at ECC sponsored events, we have our critters wear jerseys. And I'll show you what they look like. So this is our jersey. This is our jersey here. It's green, which matches our logo. It has our logo on it, and there, you can hold it. Thank you. It has our logo on it, also our website too, because obviously the front of the jersey is going to show when people take photos, so the website's on there. They can go look at photos and learn more about our organization that way as well. There's multiple reasons to have the jerseys. I know you guys, if you performed in public before, you know kids don't have the cleanest of hands. They might be holding, you know, that sticky ice cream cone or something, and it's much easier to get that off of a jersey or some clothing rather than your fursuit. So they're multi-purpose, I guess. Another thing we have are these badges. They make you definitely look more official. This one's actually a dual-sided badge. One of them says official critter handler, and all the other side says character. Now we don't use the character side anymore because we have the jerseys, because it's pretty obvious you're with the organization with a jersey on. But we do have all our handlers wear these. Like I've seen other organizations do it with like name tags or stuff like that. Just as long as you have something that makes it so everyone is very clear that you're with a certain organization is fine. Definitely also have business cards. When you attend an event, it's all about networking to get into other events. So it's really good to pass out your business cards. If anyone asks you who you are, who you're with, you know, they're obviously interested in you in some degree. So I would give them a business card. It has all the pertinent information, our website. Mine says, Emerald City Critters, a nonprofit character performance organization serving the greater Seattle, Puget Sound region. I list here that we do community and charity events, festivals, parades, fundraisers, private parties, etc. Have our website, email address on there, and also a contact phone number.
Yeah,
So
we do pass out flyers with all our social media
Yep.
accounts and a short description of what we do with easy words, easy to understand.
yeah, there's multiple ways to do it. Something like this that Tycho showed earlier. This is another great way to do it, a flyer. As long as you do have something physical you can hand out to people. That's really important. I would definitely recommend making a website. Web hosting is pretty cheap nowadays. Many domain services are as little as a few bucks a month, especially with their promo rate. Also increase your social media presence. A lot of people don't like to have to handle social media, but it's really a necessary evil, especially today. If you're not on Facebook and you're trying to be an official organization, you're way behind in the game. So I actually made a Facebook for our Emerald City Critters fairly recently. It's really good for networking. Like, for example, that American Cancer Society event that we did, they were also on Facebook, and we were able to coordinate posting photos and stuff like that. So all of the attendees to that event could see them right there on our Facebook page. And that was a very good way to get in contact with people. It is a major time commitment to be able to update that kind of thing. But it's really, really vital for your success, I think, in the long run. So that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions? I want to clarify some stuff we talked about earlier. Yes?
Yeah, well, you mentioned about having a place to de-suit. I was at an event at a zoo last year, and we were fursuiting. We were very popular. People were taking photos, but there was no good place to de-suit. And it got to the point where you had to de-suit, and it's like, what are you supposed to do? Because you don't want to break the magic in public, but at some point you have to take your head off and rehydrate. But there was no good place that we could sequester ourselves and do that.
Okay. Well, that would be something I would have probably thought about in advance and tried to clear that with the people that invited you guys there. What did you guys end up doing?
Just de-heading in public.
Oh, really? Oh,
so
gosh.
kind of breaking the magic. So
yeah.
I didn't know what we were supposed to do there.
Yeah, that's a tough situation. That's something you would want to try to clarify before the event. Even if it's something just like, you know, as I said before, just someone bringing a pop-up tent or something like that, just as long as you have something there to use to pop your head off. Even like the worst case scenario would be to like duck behind the corner of a building, so at least you're not as visible to the public. That's probably what I would have done in that situation. But to prevent that from happening, I would really try as hard as I can to organize it so you do have that area before the event. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
One thing to touch on about meeting with an organizer or a manager of some sort, if possible, have someone to bring in custom parts if necessary, like our manual, parts, or the key, so that they get an idea as far as visibility, what a looks like.
Yes,
Or at very least photos or something.
yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I've never done that, but that is a good idea. If they're really curious about what the costumes will look like, it's not a bad idea to actually bring in a head or something that they can see up close with their own eyes. You know, it's different looking at a photo of a costume, but if you can actually physically show them what it's going to look like, I think that is going to help, yeah.
I did that because I was switching to another bowling alley, and I had the opportunity to bring two people with the costumes to the manager of the alley. Unfortunately, what happened was the manager, he was all up for it, but he said, I have to talk to the owners about it.
Okay.
And then I heard back 2 weeks later that the owners said no, because they didn't want people tripping on stairs and tables. And
Oh, yeah.
liability involved.
Right.
So I was like, okay, yeah, I expected that. But we wound up moving to another alley, and we've been there for 2.5, almost 2 years.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of bowling alleys will be very different as opposed when it comes to liability aspects. Some of them will kind of let you do whatever you want, and others will be very strict about no costumes because they don't want to be liable if something does happen, if someone gets hurt. So you'll find it really runs the gamut, and hopefully you will find that bowling alley if you want to do a fursuit bowling meet that will allow that to happen. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
Something about this, 'cause I noticed down for, I know when girls try most of the first years of the what about other venues where you don't do task at hand? Because I do a lot of meetings where my character would do task at hand, but they would always get involved. Everyone else is just, all the other first years are just taking up space, since they just did hang out. Is there a problem?
Actually, no. That's good you brought that up. So for my meet, I'll give you some numbers. So for our world record one we had a couple times ago, we had 271 attendees, something like that. And actually only 120 of them bowled. So less than half of them bowled. The rest of them were just kind of hanging around. And actually the management is totally okay with that because no matter what, there's going to be people spending money elsewhere, not bowling, in the bar, in the restaurant. I don't know what kind of bar tab we rung up, but furries, they like their alcohol. So the management is totally okay with that. Unfortunately for us, our bowling alley is big enough. It's 50 lanes, so we actually only took up about half of them because I do 5 to a lane. So they were still able to have enough lanes for the birthday parties and stuff like that. That also brings in more money. So I've actually never had a problem with them as far as most people just hanging out there and having fun and not bowling. Yeah.
Touch on that. At ours in Buffalo, basically what we do is not a lot of people bowl, so there's a little meeting area off to the side, and people just artists will come in and just draw on the tables, or people will just hang out and chat. You can do arts and crafts and stuff, or just talk, or get stuff in the bar, and just make. I guess if you're going to concern about that, make sure that there's a space available that people can kind of gather if they want to bowl.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point. Always, especially if you have a large meet, have some sort of room that people can just hang out in and be social. Because it's different bowling alleys have maybe more close quarters, and if you have a lot of people hanging out there, it can get really crowded. So it's good to be able to spread out and have that space available for sure. Yeah. And it's more fun that way because it makes it more like a meet. There's people doing everything. At my meet too, people are drawing art at the tables and just having a good time. Anyone else? Talk about anything? Share your stories? Yeah.
One more thing, I had a Zootopia Fursuiting meet. I was fortunate enough to have a theater in the area that does accept costumes. So they'll prepare for Star Wars, they've done Rocky Horror, things like that. So I talked with them, and they had a party room, and we wound up having 15 to 20 fursuiters in the lobby, walk down to the theater, and it was a full total of 70 people all together.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, actually that happened up in Seattle too. We had a couple of people try to organize a meet with the theater for Zootopia, and every single time it went so well because it was really fit in with the theme of the movie, and a lot of people had a lot of fun. So yeah, that's another really good idea for a meet, especially if it's themed, like that, for sure. Anybody else? That's it? Okay, well, I think we actually ended on time. Yeah, it's 10:03, so thanks everyone for showing up. This was great to bring this to Anthrocon. Hope you learned something.